Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to say four-time natural Mr. Olympia, and I believe at least a two-time Yorton Cup champion, Philip Ricardo Jr. Thank you for being on, brother.
Man, thank you for having me, Josh. I am looking forward to this. It's good stuff.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to have you on for a multitude of reasons. I think you are one of the legends of natural bodybuilding. I don't know if that's too big a preface there, but there's that, and then also just one of the most legendary posers on top of that. So many different reasons.
Appreciate it. I don't know if I, earned all that, but it's been a blessed career. And every time I do these things, I just feel really, really honored to just have the opportunity. It's been a great life, great career.
Excellent, and that's part of what I wanted to get into, sort of not just, the training and the posing and the nutrition, but also the career highlights. So, I like to start off with some some fireball questions. So here comes some questions. So you have a litany of pro wins to your name. Amongst all those victories, what stands out?
That's a really tough question. And I think I've been asked this many times, but there's not really one that stands out because, as my career progressed, everything just happened the way it happened, just from my first time I turned pro. I never knew because it took me 10 years to turn pro, and I did the IMBA Natural Universe, turned pro there, and at that same day I went to the pro class, and then I won that show, and that was in 2003. And so once that happened, I was like, "Whoa!" I was shocked, couldn't believe it. And then I just went on a string of just great, competitions and pro shows, and I did. That's when I was in the OCB IFPA. I won the very first IFPA show, and there was like a great lineup of like Doug Miller, Ken Beerley, just the who's who in the sport, right? And I kept having that just great triumphs there until I did the 2007 Yorton Cup, which was the very first one. And once again, Doug was there, Kareem Petaway, just a whole bunch of greats. Joe, I forgot his last name, but he promotes for you guys too. But yeah, it was great. So that show I think started to put me on to where I was on the internet and people were like talking like Lane Norton about the respect that I got from him. And then I won again in 2010, and I continued on with the INBA, PNBA, winning Natural Olympia. So there's so many. I really would have to say the 2007 Jordan Cup definitely stands out huge because one is the first one. Second, going against, Doug and Kareem, just a crazy lineup of like 22 amazing pros. That was the first time where I felt like, wow, I had the confidence to be up there against the best. Um, I would say the 2015 Natural Olympia was huge too because we had gotten broken up into two classes. And I think that's when I brought my best package besides the 2007 Yorton Cup. The 2019 Natural Olympia was huge as well because that was on Generation Iron 4, Natty for Life. So that was, just an emotional roller coaster because I really wasn't planning on competing. A whole bunch of stuff happened that year. And of course, on the documentary, you see a bunch of stuff there. So, but yeah, I think those were probably my top three ish. So,
Wow, a lot of three, a lot of fantastic moments here. Which sort of I'm going to jump down some questions though. So when you're competing at that level against the like that caliber of competitors you were talking about, Doug Miller, some not named other competitors, Kyoshi Moody, things like that. Does a friendly rival stand out to you in any way? Was there anybody who was ever pushing you, whether explicitly or implicitly?
oh, for sure. And it definitely is Kyoshi Moody by far. He was from the very first natural show I did in 1998, he was the one. So we met in 98. He was the up and comer. I was the up and comer in the amateur ranks on the natural show main stage. And from that time on, I was always looking at him. He had size, conditioning, and we just had different physiques. But he pushed me when I knew he was going to be competing. I would do extra cardio. I would do whatever it took to get myself ready. And we had some great battles. And I think the first time I beat him, which was weird, was actually in an IFPA show. So he had beaten me at the trying to remember what shows there were. but it was a couple of INBA shows, and then at the IFPA Pro USA, which was actually held by it used to be the WMBF show, but I can't remember the names, but we did that show. And it was me, Cleveland Thomas, who's another one that I had a great rivalry with, Moji Alua, Panic Pierre. So, I mean, I've gone up against some studs, and that was the one show that I finally got a chance to beat him. He ended up turning the tables and beat me at the Olympia, and then we had another big natural Olympian battle, which was very close between us. He took that one, so he's always been the one that pushed me. We have a even record when it comes to our pro um, competitions and the wins and stuff like that. But yeah, he's one of the best. Him, Doug Miller, I put those guys up there. The Mishak Ochings, Cleveland Thomas, back in the day was one of the ones. So yeah, I've had some great rivalries.
No doubt. So, the other side of the coin to all the victories, plus the rivalries, what have you taken away from some of those second place finishes to Kyoshi and to some of the others?
Yeah, I think the one thing I think is the 2012 Natural Olympia when I got second to Kyoshi was one of those things where everyone backstage was telling me I had won, but I could just feel something that, it may not go my way. And, um, I am a Christian man, I love God, love Jesus. And I just think at those times, the Lord was able to have me to be just humble no matter what the situation. And to be honest with you, like back in the day when I first started, bodybuilding as a young punk, I was competing on stage with these guys and I always thought I should have won. And I was winning at first, and then when I lost, I was a very sore loser. And I think just through experience and through knowing that this is a subjective sport, it's not always gonna go my way, even, no matter what I look at. And I also look back at pictures and I'm always critical of myself, so no matter what show it is, whether I won or lost, I have to look at what I still need to work on. And to me, the fans make it all worth it because even if you place first, second, third, whatever, just having fans and friends and people, other athletes, just to be able to collaborate with and get that good feedback. That's what it's all about.
That's interesting. So, you seem like a man who knows yourself. You're a man of values, man of God, a very deliberate man. So, what would you tell a 16-year-old about developing sort of this mentality of a champion?
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually had a 16-year-old client of mine that went to my church, a young kid. His name is Gabriel Lugo, if he's listening. And, you know, when you're at that age, it's very tough not to have pride and not to be, full of yourself to the point where you're thinking, I should do this. I'm the best here, or to look down at other people. And I think that's what I would tell someone at that age is that, you know, you're always going to have room to grow. You're always going to have to look for learning experiences, learning, it's not always going to go your way, even though you think it should. And you're going to have that retrospect when you get older to be like, man, at that time, I didn't deserve this or I didn't deserve that. So I would just tell them, enjoy the journey because you have a lot of growth. Like even to this day, at this age, I've turned 55 in a month and I feel like I'm still learning about myself. I'm a better
Congratulations.
version of myself. Thank you. I'm a better version of myself. But at the same time, I wish I had done things differently when I was younger. And I would tell someone that's 16 or younger, just don't have those regrets. Just enjoy the process, don't try to rush it, thinking that, you deserve to be a pro today. Because as you see in natural bodybuilding and bodybuilding in general, it's like sometimes they throw out pro cars and, these youngsters are getting pro cars and they expect to be like the next world champion. It doesn't happen like that. There's, you know, thousands and thousands of athletes, training in the gym, doing their cardio, eating right, doing the exact same thing that we're all doing. Sometimes it comes down to genetics. Sometimes it comes down to this timing. It comes down to all these different factors. So if you're too hard on yourself and wanting to just go out in your first couple of shows and become a pro or win, it may not happen. If you enjoy the process, then it'll all be worth it because then you're actually loving what you're doing versus just going after, the top goal that you may not get on the first try.
Hmm. think those are tons of interesting points. And you know what? Honestly, I think we all mention, at least anybody who's interested in this stuff, like the process, be focused on the process. To you, like, again, talk back to the 16-year-old kid. What is the process? I'm interested. I'd love to be involved more in the process. What is that focus?
Yeah, I think for me, the process is always about, you know, if you are just starting in the sport, right? You've got to first know what works for your body, right? There's so many different workout programs, there's always so many different ways of eating. And with the information age as it is right now, it's crazy. All you got to do is go on, Instagram, TikTok, all these different things. And they're telling you so many different ways to train, eat, this and that. And I'm always getting it as a coach, just like somebody will share something to me. Hey, you don't have to do cardio to get in shape, or hey, you can have all the fats and this in your diet, and you'll be in. And so when you see these things, you know, not it's not saying that it's not true, but if you're taking all this information, you're trying to apply it to yourself, you just get lost. You're not going to learn really what works for you. So that's why I say the process is taking all this information that's out there and applying it to yourself to see what really works. Because it took me a while. I told you, it took me 10 years before I turned pro. And at first, like I said, I was a sore loser. I got started at age 21. I would win some, lose some. And it wasn't until 10 years later when I tried different things. I was looking at other competitors and bodybuilders and saying, maybe I should try that, or maybe I should try this, or just kind of knowing what affects my body, like what foods I digest better, what foods work for me, what foods irritate me, what training is best for me, what movements are best for me, what's going to stimulate my legs, my glutes, will make things activated. Those things take time to find. So if you're looking for like right away, hey, 6 months, I want you to train me and I'm going to be a pro. It doesn't happen that way. You have to just, I mean, it may, for some people, it does happen that way, especially you have genetics. But even then, if you get it too quick, sometimes that could be the worst thing that happens to you because then you're expecting too much. So I think the process is just taking every single moment at a time, being really patient and really appreciating everything that happens, whether it's a win or loss. And then your journey, that's how you build your journey, your legacy, all those good things. Because if you're a one hit wonder, you turn pro and say, I'm the best thing, and you're done, no one's going to really remember you, right? It's those people that are in the sport for a long time, accomplish a lot of things, and are available to, give that information out and share it. I think those are people that are remembered.
Hmm. Most definitely. And I mean, I think you're right. We see it all the time. A lot of these younger kids, in fact, some of them are stepping on stage and they're getting that pro card and then they're hitting that pro stage and they're not really getting the placement that they want and they're getting very disappointed with that. And back to the comment on what is the process, it sounds like in statistics, I think we call it Bayesian analysis. It sounds like you have a set of information and you experiment with that. And then you continue to update your priors in this sort of iterative way until you figure out what works for you, whether that be training, nutrition, contest preparation. So it sounds like you take this approach where you're constantly analyzing your inputs and then modifying after you've already experimented with them, not willy nilly, but after you've tested things out.
That's exactly right. It's just like what you do with, if you're working as a developer or coder or AI, it's like they're taking all this information in, they're combining it, and trying to find out what's maybe the common denominator in everything that's going on with respect to the athlete, to you or me or whatever it is. And whatever is working, you continue to use that, and then you just kind of like, perfect it in certain ways. And that analysis is what's going to help you to find your, it can change in so many different ways. Sometimes if you compete in the summertime, your physique may look one way versus how it looks in the wintertime. Sometimes, you might have a shorter prep or longer prep, and your body just, may change during that time frame because of definitely like environmental things. Sometimes you compete on the East Coast versus the West Coast. There's so many different things that can affect your body, and you have to be able to adapt and overcome. And so that analysis is very, very important.
Mm, mm-mm. I want to go back again. You had mentioned genetics a couple of times, and I think it's important here. One of the most, I think, gifted people I have ever seen on the stage, both posing and physically. You and Kyoshi, I would say, both have very blessed genetics, but they're two entirely different physiques. So, how do you think about your own genetics, I guess, just in terms of the sport of bodybuilding?
It's weird, but I don't ever look at myself as like a genetic freak until I see some photos of myself. And then I become more impressed, and it's weird. I don't see myself on a day-to-day basis looking at myself in the mirror, and then I'll see a contest photo, and then I'm like, wow, I'm shocked that I was able to do that. And I've talked to Kyoshi, and surprisingly, he's the same way. So we both have that mindset. I don't know if it's what it is, but it's weird. But um I know that for me, the genetics of just being able to get lean and have the different muscle bellies is something that I just, thank the Lord for it, And I in the beginning of my career, I just basically was chasing size. And I know that I have a point where I can't get any bigger naturally. And so I had to turn that into just focusing on the quality. And so with that, I really focused on just muscularity. If I didn't see, different type of muscles popping out in every single area of my body from top to bottom, I knew I wasn't ready for the stage. And that was kind of my mindset every time I stepped on stage. And so I use that to my advantage, and of course, posing to get some rid of some of the weaknesses I do have. I think were some of the things that helped me to, be successful and use my genetics the best, possible way to do well. Somebody like Kyoshi, I've actually told him to many many times to his face and on interviews that he to me has the best genetics. Like the size, the balance, every muscle is just, I think the only thing that I ever would have a chance to beat him is if he was off conditioning wise and I was like so on and held on to my size as well. So, but if he came in at his best and I came in at my best, I'd say Kyoshi should win every single time. So,
Very humble of you. Um, So I think back to some of your points. Um, I think showing your best physique. I think one of the poses that comes to mind for me with you is your side chest. Like, it's very deliberate. You get very conditioned. You show a lot of serratus when some of the guys, they bring their arm up and they don't show that much, but you're very conditioned. And then you take this angle. Is your side chest as deliberate as I'm making it up in my head?
oh no, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly I know when I'm trying to strike the side chest, and that's my pose. Um, I think my two best poses are my front lat spread and my side chest, and those I always feel confident with, and especially the side chest. Even if I'm a little off, the side chest is always something that I can show off the serratus. Press my chest in to get the detail here, and of course the hamstring drop and the glutes. That's something that I'm always amazed and happy to have that pose be something that I am, I'm good at. So it's very deliberate. I know in practice how to sit on that hamstring, push it into the other leg, bring my chest back so that I do show off the abs, squeeze down, make sure I'm smiling, blow the air out. And yeah, yeah, that's it.
Most of it, and that pose is the way you hit it is how you own it. You might not tell a handful of your other clients to hit that pose in that way.
Well, I try. I try to do it, but as you said too, there's so many, like you said, genetics plays a role. Like I tell everybody, just because I can do something a one way doesn't mean it's going to look good on you. And every client that I work with after when I'm posing with them, even I think a couple of days ago, I was working with a couple of they're going to be doing my show in a couple of weeks, and they try to do that pose, but if they don't have enough fullness in their biceps or their arms or chest, you get that gap. And so if you go back too far, you're not going to have that everything covered and still being able to show all the conditioning. So there's so many factors. Of course, you have to have the leg sweep to be able to squat down like that and get your, hamstring to drop and the glutes to show up. And you have to just be in shape. If you're not in shape, you're not going to be able to see all the things that come out in that pose.
Most definitely. And then I would say another pose that I is one of my favorite of yours is the back double by. Just when your glutes are in, and
Yeah.
it's a fantastic pose. So what would you attribute your hamstring and glute development to over the course of your career? If you had to pick a couple of things to attribute that to, what would it be?
Yeah, so early in my career, I was going up against this Marine that was older than me, and the dude had some great legs, hamstrings, and that was what I was lacking. And that's when I looked at him, he was my goal. Um, and I was still young at the time, but I saw him squatting. He would have a wide stance squat, super deep, and I was like, okay, that's how I need to do my legs. And every Monday, fresh off the weekend, I'm not going to wait till later on in the week. I threw legs in, heavy squats, deep as I can go, and it would be heavy squats, stiff-legged, straight-legged deadlifts, and the hyperextension machine to focusing mainly on my glutes when I squeezed on the way up. And I did that for years and years and years. And I can always feel like the first thing that would be sore on my body from that leg day would always be the glutes. Like it would be hard for me to sit down. And those three movements were the key. And of course, lunges too. I did a lot of lunges. I think those four movements were like they just were targeted to the glute area and hamstrings. And I was even shocked too that when I got to that body fat level to where they were able to be seen, that they were so pronounced. And um, I know that that's the key to me in many of my victories. That one little extra thing that I had over the other competitors was the glutes and the back double bicep. Even in my standing relaxed, I made sure that I squeezed that. And yeah, it was definitely something that, for a natural bodybuilder at that time, back in the early 2000s, to have that, I honestly was looking at the enhanced bodybuilders. Those are the only ones that you might see it on. And so I was trying to chase that because I'm like, I'm not putting any limits on myself, but I want to get what those guys have. And so when I did those movements and I saw what others were doing, those four movements were the key.
Hmm. People take that to the bank. Excellent advice. Especially, I love the way I I love the way that you structured it. You're like, okay, I see what I want, and I'm putting that first part of the week. That's how I am prioritizing things.
Correct, correct. That prioritization is very key because, you know, legs are hard, right? And no one wants to be sore all week doing legs and you have a job, you have family, you have whatever. But I knew that if I didn't have my legs to equal the top competitors out there, why, I'm not saying why compete, but I'm not going to be able to get to that level, that pro level status that I wanted to attain. And so I made sure first thing in the week, I was fresh on that day. I put everything into it. Tuesday and Wednesday sucked because I was very tired and my legs were sore and I'm like walking around, limping around. But I saw the immediate results within a year. And so I knew I was on the right track and I just kept that up the entire time. And it was great. Even when I did cardio, I was always doing the stairmaster and skipping a step up and squeezing the glutes, and that was my cardio. And that's no, that's hard too. So especially I wouldn't do that after a leg workout, but midweek or whatever for that cardio, that would do that, and that would once again enhance the muscularity in the glutes.
This will be the last question about lower body dominance, but on top of your glutes and your hamstrings, I think you're known for your incredible vascularity throughout your quadriceps. Did you ever focus on that? Is that genetic? What do you think about just the incredible vascularity that you're known for?
Yeah, honestly, it's genetics. I didn't do anything special. I just feel like when I put my mind to getting into that extra lean condition, all that stuff started to come out. I just had like a crazy vein on my right thigh that would always pop out, and people would like look and touch and all that stuff. And I was, that's why I say like even myself, I was amazed at how these things come out. I looked at a picture of myself. I was like, where'd that come from? And it really was just the mindset of just getting super lean. I just dieted for, instead of taking advantage of or taking for granted that I can get in shape in like 6 or 8 weeks. I kept pushing to that 18, 20, 24 week period. And I just saw the visceral fat and the skin folds get super, super thin to where I would see all that conditioning and definition. And I think that was the key.
You bring up something so interesting, like you evolve the length of your prep 18, 20, 24 weeks. How did you give yourself because I think this is a mistake young people fall into. It's like, okay, I'm going to do one for 24 weeks. I've never done it before. How did you give yourself enough runway to be able to prep for 24 weeks or longer?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Because to be honest with you, unless you have experience in life, right? During this time frame, I have family, I have work, all these things. And if you are so, and this is going to sound bad to most people, but if you're so ultra focused to where you can't live life, like you can't go to a birthday party or you can't like do certain things once in a while, it's gonna be a miserable to me, a miserable life of just prepping unless you're single and you have that mindset. But when I did these 24-week periods, I would take like a weekend with the family and I'll be able to go, birthday parties, have a couple of cheat meals because I was so depleted during the work week that I can, give myself that refeed. And I was able to easily eat like, a cheeseburger, pizza, cake, or something and then get right back on the wagon. And some coaches may not think that's right, but it worked for me. And so it made the prep easy because I had something to look forward to every week that I'm going to get my meal. And after a while, when I got to maybe 10 weeks out, yeah, those things would kind of slowly go away. But I was already like preconditioned over those 14 weeks to be like, you know what? I'm good. I know the goal is coming up too quickly now. I don't want to mess up. I don't really need those meals because when you have it once a week, it's not like you have to have it. You have it just because it's, it's a nice refeed. It's something nice to have. But 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out, I'm like, okay, let's go. We got to pedal to the metal, nothing else matters. And now that last 8 weeks, yeah, it might be tougher for you, of course. It should be. You're not supposed to be happy and having a good time during that last week, last couple of months of prep. But at least the beginning part, I gave myself enough time to cut down that body fat. And then the last 10 weeks, I'm like, let's go.
Excellent. So, I mean, I think you highlight some good psychological things there. I think giving yourself these little intermittent rewards is going to make the prep more sustainable. And then
Yes,
also, you still have to have that realistic goal of these have to stop at a certain point because I still need to get in the appropriate amount of conditioning.
that is correct. And, a lot of my clients that I have too, especially females, they're kind of shocked that I give them that relax food because their other coaches don't give that to them. And then they're thanking me for like helping them maintain their hormones, maintain some kind of just mental health, sanity that they don't have to be so hardcore cutting down to 1,000 calories right off the bat in your prep. So I'm already high calories, high carbs in the beginning, and you take it slow. You take it slow. You take it slow. You might, I do carb cycling. So I might have like 5 high carbs and 2 low, and then I slowly go to 4 to 3, 3 to 4, until I get close to the prep. But by then, like I said, I'm already conditioned. I know what foods I'm eating. I'm enjoying it. I start off full, and yeah, you're gonna get hungrier, but at least it's not like right off the bat you're starting off with low calories. It's got to be that slow progression. And I think all good coaches do the same thing. But yeah, if you do it that way, and for someone that has not prepped before and they want to do that 24 week, and they just go cold turkey on everything right away, yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Most definitely. And now, some aspect that I feel ashamed that I didn't even prep for. You've been coaching for a while now. And so you go through these situations with your athletes. What are the biggest hurdles that your athletes have in a prep if it's their first prep or even if they're a seasoned veteran, what are the mental hurdles that you see?
I think the mental hurdles for most of them are when they get a coach, they want things so exact that, if something is off, they get thrown off. And so for me as the coach, I have to make sure that I say to them, look, just because you maybe missed, you didn't get exactly at 6 o'clock this meal or this time frame or this, it's not the end of the world. And a lot of them stress out, it's their first time and they're like, oh, I did this and I forgot this. Or it's like, don't worry about it. This is just one meal. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your prep. You just get back on the horse and we keep on going. And I think if a coach yells at you, and I think a lot of them have had coaches that do that. I've had a couple of clients that told me that, and they were telling them like, if you don't do this, then you're a failure. And that mentally messes you up, cortisol and everything else, but it's not a good way to enjoy the process. So I want them to enjoy the process. I'm not going to be too soft on them, of course, but there's got to be that happy balance of saying, okay, look, if you messed up here, you just get back on it and you just do this. And I think that's the one thing mentally that a lot of them struggle with is trying to be too perfect. You either have the ones that are too perfect or the ones that are way off and not doing anything, that don't listen. So you have the two extremes. That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm. So, I mean, it sounds like you're very caring with your athletes. And then also, there's this, to steal a sports metaphor, there's this wide receiver mentality. All right, drop ball. Next up, next
Yeah.
play. Just keep going.
I like that. I love
Excellent.
football as a wide
I
receiver
want to
in
see
high
if we
school.
can get out of here. Another fun fact I didn't know. All right. What is the difference in the man on the left and the man on the right, and how are they similar? How are they different? How are they similar?
Wow. Okay, so how are they different? One, the man on the left is right out of boot camp. I was like 19 years old. And I was like a deer in the headlights, I was a robot. When you're in the Marine Corps and boot camp is done, you're listening to your drill sergeant telling you what to do, yelling at you, and you're doing all type of different crazy activities to become a warrior. And when I got out of boot camp, I still really didn't know what was going to be happening because after that, you're shipped off to your duty station or your job specialty. So I was very young, very green, not really knowing what's next in life, except for, hey, am I going to be going to war? Am I going to be, what's my new job going to be? Because coming fresh out of high school into the Marine Corps is a whole new start of life. And after that, the Marine Corps was just the best thing that I ever could have done and I made a career out of it, 21 years, and that's experience helped me to get to the guy on the right, where the military set me up to be very disciplined, to be able to go through and all type of hard situations, so that when I'm training, I can push myself to the next level. I can, get myself to that super low body fat, like that, right picture has, to the point where it's challenging but it's not going to destroy me like it would maybe someone who wasn't used to that hardcore training and the discipline that it takes to be a Marine. Now, I guess what is the same with those two is the discipline. As a Marine, you have the discipline. On the right, you have to be disciplined too. Um, Also, I feel like on the right side, where I'm hitting the side chest, I still had a lot of green in me because at that time, even though, when I look at the picture, I look great, I still didn't know what I could achieve, like as far as, how far can I go in the sport? How am I looking against all the best guys out there, even though I'm doing well? And for the guy on the left, I'm like, I'm a Marine, I'm respected, but how far can I go in my career here as a Marine?
Hmm. I think there's a quote that's attributed to you. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I still want people to see the Marine in me. What does that
Mm,
mean?
yeah, I feel like the Marines always get respect. And I want them to see that, despite everything that's going on in life, the Marine Corps was such an important part of who I am. Um, the Marine Corps is what made me my career. Everything that I'm doing now, even after the Marine Corps as a contractor, I still support the military. Without the Marine Corps, I don't know what would have happened because a lot of people back home, including my family, they didn't join the military and, they're still living in the same places. They're struggling. I was able to travel the world. I mean, I've been to every country almost, when it came to going to Japan, Korea, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, you name it, Australia, New Zealand, all these great countries, of course, Iraq and Kuwait and those things. But um, that right there is what made me who I am. So seeing that in me means that they can see the true Philip Ricardo, right? They're seeing a guy that, in the Marine Corps, I went through a lot of stuff, made it through it. I'm still here to tell about it. And it's also carried over to many other facets of my life.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you for your 21 years of service. That's incredible. I did not know the exact number, but that's amazing. And I suppose the follow-up question to that is there this level of Philip Ricardo in the natural bodybuilding world without the Marine Corps?
Hard to say, only God knows, to be honest with you. When I look at my journey, I I just can't think of anything but what happened, if that makes sense. Um, I don't think I would have even probably made it to the bodybuilding stage because my first show is because of the military. So I was stationed in Japan. My very first show was in Japan. And somebody, I wish I knew who the guy was. He signed me up for the show because he thought I had a good physique. And I step on the stage there. I didn't even like shave, tan, or anything. Just put some regular speedos on, and did well. And I fell in love with the sport. So, I mean, I guess if you put it that way, if it wasn't for the Marine Corps, that is what caused me to one compete, two get the confidence to continue on because I got so much great feedback. Um, and then I knew from that point on that I wanted to see where this journey took me. I wanted to be the best, but because it didn't happen right away, I enjoyed the journey so much. And then when I finally did turn pro, I was just happy. It's just an icing on the cake, just a bonus. And then things just kept going. So,
It's so amazing that there are these little serendipity moments that you just kind of have to take advantage of. You don't know who signed you up for that show.
yeah,
You don't
right.
know what happened, but you took advantage of that. Are there any other moments in your career that just felt like serendipity that you were just like, well, I just have to take advantage of this situation?
Wow. I mean, to be honest with you, it feels like almost my whole life. My whole life has been that way. It's weird. It's weird. Especially after being successful in the sport. There's times when I first turned pro, um, I was just given opportunities. When I did the 2007 Natural Olympia, which was my first Natural Olympia championship. The next year, I was given the opportunity to be sponsored by this a sports nutrition company called Horley's, and they're overseas. And so they treated me like royalty. And I went over to New Zealand, did a whole campaign. I got paid. They flew me out. It was amazing. So that's one of those things where you just accept something, that opportunity, and it just became such a huge, huge something that for natural bodybuilders you don't expect. You don't expect that from NPC IFBB. And to get that kind of treatment was crazy. And I think that kept continuing on, even with winning the Yorton Cup. The 2007 Yorton Cup, I had made the cover of the Fitness and Physique magazine, first cover. And I'm like, wow. And then, um, being in Generation Iron, that was one of those things too that I had been done because I did the World Championships for the IMBA, PMBA, 2016, 2017. I went through a painful divorce. And during that divorce, my parents passed away. Like I had so many things happen, and I was like, God, what's going on? And during that time frame, I lost my job as well. And so when I lost my job, I was home in my apartment, family left, and I just didn't know what was going to happen. And by the grace of God, I was given an opportunity to, um, they called me and said, hey, Generation Iron is going to do a film on these athletes, and obviously, you being one of our top guys, we love for you to be on it. But I got no job. I haven't been like competing for the last couple of years. Rob Terry, who was the natural Olympia champion at the time, was going to be there. It's like, you know what? At least I'm going to be on there. I may not beat him, and I may not beat whoever else, but I would love to be on the documentary. So I just took the opportunity, even with all the stuff happened with my parents, no job, this and that. Um, and they chronicled that story during the documentary. And I went in there by the grace of God once again, was able to beat guys like him, Siobhan Cunningham, a whole host of bodybuilders, and that was like, phew, such an incredible moment that because I took that opportunity, because God put that opportunity out there for me, um, it's another incredible blessing in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I have, obviously I've seen Generation Iron. A big fan of just you being in that movie, and I've wondered about how that got started for you. But do you feel like they capture you, the athlete in person, very well?
I think so. I mean, honestly, they I think they captured me better than I am, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that sounds right, but, you know, when I look at myself and people, the way they talk about me, I am very, like, I don't even know what to say. I feel, you know, I know the real me. My wife knows the real me, but I do try my best. I try my best to be, something that the Lord could be proud of when it comes to me portraying myself. Um, I make time for people because I think it's important. Um, I try to give back what the sport has given to me to the sport. Um, I try to be there for everyone if I can, if I have the means. And that's all I can do. I think time, that's the time, talent, treasure. Those things are important when it comes to, your life and your faith. And for me, I try to give all that. So if people see that in me and if that's how they portrayed me in that film, and I was getting a lot of messages because of that. And those messages were so encouraging. So every single person that has ever seen the film and it has written me because of it, yeah, sometimes I get teary eyed, just thinking about it because I don't think I deserve all this that I've been given. So, I take it in stride and it's just been a wonderful life. So especially on that end of my career in natural bodybuilding, and that's it.
Most definitely. I mean, you're clearly a man of values. You often thank the Lord, and you thank the discipline that the Marine Corps gave you, and you have those supports and those values to sort of drive you along. What does it mean to also have the support of your wife in all this?
Oh, it's paramount. I think the reason why I got divorced is because without that support and without being kind of a team, like you have to have someone that truly loves and respects. We have to have that mutual respect. It works both ways. Like if I'm not sacrificing for my wife and my family, she's not going to sacrifice for me, and she's got to see that like I can't. And I think it's tough in our sport. It's really easy to have the pride and ego where once you're in prep mode, it's all about me. Nothing else matters. You should be on board with me while I'm getting ready, and you should be cooking me my chicken and my rice and all. It's not like that. When I do my competitions, my wife, she's supporting me. She's trying to eat like brownies and cookies in front of me, and um, that's important. And I think she also has to be my fan. If she's seeing me be a jerk, and she's going to her girlfriends or somebody else and saying, "Yeah, he looks good, but he's been such a jerk to me. Yeah, what's the use, right?" So, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for other people? Am I doing this for my wife? Am I doing it for God? Like what is this for? And so that's important. And I think having her on my side, I'm promoting shows, she's there for it. I go to see some of my friends at competition, she's there. She loves the sport. She hasn't competed, but I'm glad that she also can like know why I enjoy what I'm doing. She knows all the clients that I have. So, she's amazing.
Yeah, it's important that they understand our why, right? They don't have to
Yes,
compete. They just
right.
have to understand the why and be
Yeah.
supportive of the why. And that's really what's important because this sport takes a lot. As much as it gives,
Yes.
it takes a lot.
It does. It does. It does. Very, very it definitely can suck the life out of you for sure.
Hmm. So where do you hope just this is I'm zooming out, big broad question. You promote shows, you're the face, I'll call you the face. I don't care if it's not true. You're the face of the PMBA. That that is what I think. Where do you hope the sport of natural bodybuilding is heading in
Mm,
general? Next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Where do you project?
wow. You know, it's tough to say this because I've been in this sport already for, nearly 20 years. Wait, 30 years. Yeah, it's been a while, right? And I've seen glimpses of where it should be. And I think the PNBA does an amazing job because they had Generation Iron, they have Iron Man magazine. And I even respect the OCB as well because, like I said, I had a great career with them, and even with rest his soul, Matt Shepley, when he was the president. I would go with him, and he really valued the athletes. he had me on the magazine. He, would always ask me to do things, and he was a good historian of natural bodybuilding. Chet Yorton and everything else. So what I would love for a natural body to do, but it's so hard because once again we have so many different federations, is there to be some collaboration in some way, so that the athletes, yes, I know, and I know you want that as well, and there's guys like you, Sean Sullivan. I love that guy. Sean is another guy. I could spend all day talking about him on this, but love that guy to death. He's been there throughout my entire journey, and I love that guy to death. He's a unsung hero of the sport and military guy too. We've been through a lot of things together, but guys like him, the big heads that can just really have this sport join together to make this bigger. There's guys out there that I see on Instagram, and I'm in contact with them because they know what I've done, and they contact me, like, Sean Fury with the Natty King. Um, we have a couple other guys too that are doing like Natty gear. So they're trying to showcase the natural bodybuilders over, the enhanced. Um, and I think if we can get more of that to make natural bodybuilding more mainstream and show that it's the best way to go, I think that'll be the way that the sport can elevate to the point where, I mean, our dream was to make sure it gets into the Olympics. If we're drug tested, why can't we be a sport? Even just they have gymnastics and these other things. Why can't they have bodybuilding? So that would be the optimal thing, to have it in the Olympics, and have us represent, each of the countries, Team USA, Team whatever, and then we'd be legitimized. Who's the best in the world really would be the Olympics. So that would be one thing. I just think, unfortunately, it's all about finances. I know a lot of natural bodybuilders, because of the fact that it's very expensive and you don't get kind of the perks of being a professional. And right now, there are so many professional natural bodybuilders that, like we talked about before, they might get their pro card the first couple of shows, and then they go into the pro stage, and it's not the same that they thought. They're not as good as they thought they were. So having it to where we have a criteria of, you know, different shows to have the rankings of these pro bodybuilders so you can see who's the real best of the best pro bodybuilders, bikini, whatever division is, figure, um, so that we can have a true world champion that gets a prize that is worth. I'm not saying it's comparable to the IFBB because they got whatever, but something. I know that money doesn't fuel all of us, but it does make a big difference when I talk to all the athletes for shows I'm promoting. I'm sure you get the same thing. So, yeah,
What lovely ideas and concepts you've brought up. Um, and I think you have to, in my mind, they just link together. How do we get the big organizations? Obviously, no disrespect to any organization that I miss,
right.
OCB, PNBA, WNBF, obviously the sub organizations that feed into them, over the DFAC, oversee all those other ones. How do we all come together to, at least, I think the first mission is make this an Olympic sport. What a
Mm,
beautiful idea that I haven't
yes.
even considered. If we can't come
Yes.
together on anything other than perhaps maybe judging criteria,
Mm,
and if we could all get synced on that, I feel like that would change the sport. But if we
I
get
truly
synced on
agree.
that and we present a united front to the Olympic Committee or to whoever else you're talking about, I think that's the way. Just like you said, that's how we legitimize our sport. We are
Yes.
natural, we are athletes, we have seasons, we have peaks and valleys of competition, and then when we show up on that day, we present our bodies much like gymnasts, much like anybody else in sort of this aspect of sport. And this, oh man, you've got me thinking in so many different ways. Wow, I wasn't expecting that answer.
Well, to be honest with you, I can't take credit. This is something that Denny Keikos, who's the president of the INBA PNBA, has been pushing for a long time. And I've always been such a proponent because all the years I've been with this federation, I want that too. Like, who doesn't want that? That's like, it's the pinnacle. And I know I'm friends, like you, Sean Sullivan, once again, Vicky McCann from, the DFAC, like everyone from these federations, I know them. I'm great friends with 'em. I love all you guys because you all have the same mindset. Ken Beerley, once again, AMBF. Like, there's no reason why we can't all come together because we all have the same heart and the same goal. And so, yeah, that would be the main thing. And it's, with me getting to the age I am, I just want to be part of that director of the board to be a representative for the athletes that are ready for the Olympics. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm glad that you love that idea too. I just feel like that would be something if we can have in the next 10 years. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Man. Okay, I'm gonna do more thinking after this episode. This is what you say. That's what a wonderful. I don't want to end on that though. I do want to end on this somewhat. This is for me and possibly for anybody else out there. Is Philip Ricardo Jr. done competing?
It's funny. I I I can say 90% that I'll probably be back on stage. Only because to be honest with you, the last few years that I've been competing haven't been my best because I did one thing when you get in your 50s, it's rough, right? And I can't say that too much because you see somebody like Marshall Johnson, who I love.
Oh,
This guy's in his mid
amazing.
60s and killing it, right? And me and him had a rivalry, not really rivalry, but we've been best friends. We live in the same area. He lives out here with me. So we're friends. He's judged at my show before. We go work out at DMV Iron and all this stuff. So I see what these late 50s and 60s are doing and still winning against the younger guys. And I just need to give my body a rest and to grow again. And I think I'm finally starting to see, like, hey, I'm starting to see some things I had in my youth that if I, do the right kind of diet again, I might be able to come back and, be decent. I'm not going to be back to those photos, obviously, but at least present a package that I'm, proud of to represent in at my age group. Um, and to just, be kind of a motivation for people that really enjoy the old school guys like myself, Marshall Johnson, obviously seen The Godfather competing. He just competed this weekend. Yeah, Jeff
Looking great.
Albers.
Jeff Albert's looking fantastic.
Yeah, looking fantastic. And I talk to him all the time. I love talking to all these guys because we've been in the sport around the same time frame. And when I see that, it's just motivation. So I feel like why stop? I don't have to to put myself through, anything crazy to get in that kind of old school shape. But I feel like I can get back and look really good for the next time I compete. I don't know if it's going to be next year, could be, or it could be in the next couple of years, but we'll see. But it is going to happen. Yeah. And my wife, like,
Yes.
the most important, my wife is supporting him. So that's the main thing. So as long as she says yes, it's all good.
You got me motivated for the next year. That's fantastic. No, it's great to hear. And like you said, and this is a shout out to Marshall Johnson. I want to have you on the show. Him and I have talked a little bit. Got to get you on the show, Marshall, because like you said, he is the face of longevity in the
Oh
sport,
my goodness,
right?
big time,
Just
big time.
just year over year. It's so funny. The first show that I promoted, the winner of my show went and took second place to Marshall at a pro show, and it was just the coolest thing to see. I'm just like, there you go,
Yes,
the pinnacle of
yes.
natural bodybuilding.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah,
keep
he
taking down
is.
shows.
Yes, yes,
It's
for sure.
incredible. Philip, you've been so generous with your time. I appreciate you so much. You have a show you're promoting coming up. Where can people go to find more about that? Where can people go to find more about your coaching services and other services that you have going on?
So yes, so if they go to my Instagram, it's Ricardo's RICARDOS underscore legend. And just hit me up, messenger, whatever. And yeah, I got information. The show is July 18th, so it's coming up in less than 3 weeks here in Dumfries, Virginia. So it's about 30-45 minutes from Dulles Airport or the Washington Reagan Airport. So come on out. We've got some great competitors coming out here. We have one of the guys who placed really high at the Natural Olympia last year for men's bodybuilding is competing at my show, and he looks insane. So you see guys like him, he'd be a guy that could do the Olympics and would be like gold medal in my opinion now. So actually the third place guy is going to be here too, but he's not competing. He's going to help me out. And then we also have a wheelchair physically challenged. He's also going to be competing at my show as well, and he actually won the Natural Olympia for the physically challenged last year. So I'm having people just come support, just out of the love for respect out of for me and the sport, and it's just amazing. And so if anybody wants to compete, or just come out to watch. This is a natural Olympia qualifier. We're giving away $5,000 to the pro class. So, we're doing our best we can to do what we can to make the sport here in Virginia, which there's a lot of OCB shows. We're competing with them, but it's not really competition. We're really just trying to just give other options because, just like you say, I have clients. I got clients who are competing in OCB. I said, you're going to compete in a show. You got to find the time frames when these shows are and when you're going to be ready. So if an OCB shows you want to go ahead and do it. I'll be there for you and support you. But my show is coming in 3 weeks, and I look forward to it happening. And the rest of the year. I'll be at I might even be at the OCD Presidential Cup. I got a client competing there. And then I'll be at the Mr. Americas, another show, and of course the Natural.
Fantastic. Phil, this has been tremendous. I really appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
Thanks for being on.
Appreciate you too. Thank you. Appreciate you.